All right, we have seen quite a pullback here into the most beautiful support range that Bitcoin has on this chart. I am loving this chart. I tell you, ladies and gents, this chart has gotten 5 to 10 times better overnight, and I'm going to tell you why in this YouTube video. Now, if you're excited for this, as usual, do me a favor and smash up those likes. Double check, of course, that you are subscribed, and you've got huge offers available down below. Tons of free cash when you start trading. Use these links. Check them out if you're interested. Always check your country's local laws and regulations. But this chart is spectacular. We have kind of slowly moved up, and we were talking in the last video about how we were losing a little bit of momentum in this market, and things were kind of turning a little bit weak for this current price range. But the thing that we kept on kind of repeating after saying that is that Bitcoin has tons and tons of support beneath it, and it would actually make Bitcoin, I think, rally much harder if it does come back for that pullback. I mean, we've seen this a million times, right? I mean, if you take a look at, the biggest, most crazy drops that we've seen on these charts, right? I mean, when we first entered this range, this was we went up from $51,000 all the way to 70K, and that happened in 8 days, and then flash crash, you're down by 10K. But it's when you get these big crashes, that's always what comes right before you start setting all-time highs, right? When you get these big dips, they usually kind of lead into nice big recoveries. Take a look at this all the time. It always works this way. You get a nice big dip, and then you recover, and then you start setting highs, right? And so this happens on all sorts of different time frames. We've already done it here, and here, and here, and now we're kind of doing it again on a smaller time frame here, which is why I'm so excited by this. We've already been showing signs that Bitcoin is successfully finding support at this support zone. On the hourly, we've had multiple candles that have been supported here, and on the 4-hour, we've just been getting really nice dips being built up over here. So we're going to have to watch this and see how it kind of continues to play out, and I think obviously a big part of what happens to Bitcoin is going to be dependent on traditional finance, such as the dollar and the S&P 500. We're going to come back to those in just a minute, and if you are excited for it, do me a favor and smash up those likes if you haven't done so already. But clearly this level is being defended. The invalidation for this level for me is going to be kind of 66,400, but really, I mean, this level stretches down even further. I mean, if you wanted to be a little bit kind of cheeky about where you could find support in this market, you can justify a lot. I think easily kind of anywhere up until this. You see how these bars kind of start tapering off from here. These bars where they kind of stick out, this in itself is kind of a support zone. So I can even draw, a second box of support below the kind of key level that we've been watching. And this is a super legitimate price, in my opinion, for Bitcoin to get bought back up at as well. And basically, all of this is to say that we can kind of overshoot our support a little bit. And as long as we don't overshoot it by more than this, which means as long as we don't dip below 65,500, this is looking good to me. And it's looking so good to me that I actually potentially want to trade this move. And I've already got a setup that I'm interested in, that I'm looking at. And it's precisely at this price level where I think that some really nice kind of buys could be here, or even down here just to buy that dip and allow for a little bit more of a deviation. Now, if this level gets lost, then I think certainly things could get a little bit worse, but that's where my kind of trade setup comes in. And by the way, any trade that I make is only going to be on the exchanges links right here. These are the best in the game. I take my money very seriously. I put serious amounts of money into the market, and so I need to trade on serious exchanges that are not copy-paste of everybody else, exchanges that actually have built their own tech, stand on their own. They're not vulnerable to the same kind of threats that other exchanges are. It's too risky, right? I can't put my money in stupid places. And that's why these are the exchanges that I use. Bybit is the best in the game. They're giving you $30,000 for free when you start trading using my link. You're going to get less than that or more depending on how much you deposit and how much you trade with. Apex has got the same offer, but it's a decentralized exchange, so you keep full custody of your funds, which is crazy. It's such a big deal. And Blowfin is just a phenomenal alternative to Bybit. Honestly, best in the game right after Bybit from what I've seen. There's others that are great too, like OKX and so on, but I've been loving Blowfin personally, and you can check them all out with the links down below. The deals on Blowfin are very aggressive. When you start trading, you're just gonna get a ton of free money in your account. You'll be like, I don't even do anything for this money, but then you get to trade with it and withdraw profits, which is cool. So again, always check your laws, to see if you're allowed to use these exchanges. But if you are, they're well worth checking out. And my trade setup is, I think it's going to look pretty straightforward, right? I mean, and it's not something that I've confirmed yet. It's not actually something that I'm fully in, But you know, if you do take a look at these kind of figures here, I mean, it's pretty easy for me to kind of drop a stop loss somewhere around over here. Entry, I don't know, yeah, it's like 66k flat is pretty nice, 66.3. You know, I mean, I think it could, you know, I think it could still be bullish and kind of come down to these price levels. You know, and then yeah, naturally I'd kind of be targeting this upside here, and so that's going to be a 4 risk to reward ratio. Got 2% downside, 7.5% upside. It's a pretty healthy trade, right? I mean, it's not horrible. It's certainly not breathtakingly amazing. It's good. I think it's a good setup. And so anyway, I got to do a couple more checks before I fully commit to that. That's why I haven't done that just yet. But it looks pretty sweet to me. This is a really, really nice support zone. And I think the other reason, forget my trade, but the other reason that I think this is a big deal is because if we do kind of conclusively lose this rough area, then we probably have to drop down by another few $1,000s, which means that this kind of general price range is going to be done, and then instead we're going to be coming down here, and this entire area might turn into resistance again as a result. So I think that this price range is really important for that reason, and I think it could get defended as well for that reason. But it goes deeper than that, right? I mean, those of you that are subscribed, you're going to be so intimately familiar with these details at this point, but this Ichimoku cloud is just looking beautiful, and it lines up perfectly with this price level. Now, granted, we've gotten here a little bit earlier, but if Bitcoin manages to do something, you know, a little bit like this, we're going to start entering this Ichimoku cloud that's offering some support here. So, you know, if Bitcoin does kind of, you know, do some sideways kind of price action, that's going to be enough to really send this thing higher. So for me, it's a matter of, you know, you dip a little bit more and I think a lot of support can come in, or you trade sideways and I think a lot of support can catch up. But in either case, I think that, you know, this chart is still looking pretty bullish to me, at least. And there's a lot more we got to check. We haven't even looked at the fear and greed index yet. Look at this. We got a reading of 72. There's a lot we got to get through in this YouTube video. But just from the kind of core analysis that I do at the beginning, I think this is important. And so that's looking good from the Ichimoku cloud perspective. If we look at this from the EMA ribbon, we've got tons of support right now on the 4-hour time frame. On the daily time frame, we still haven't even hit our support, and it's going to be probably curving up something a little bit like this, right? Probably going to look a little bit like that, you know. And so kind of by very, very beginning of November, so basically in about 10 days, I think we could be enjoying some EMA support there on the daily. And then, you know, if we look at this on the hourly, we've probably already lost. We're at the very, very bottom of our Ichimoku cloud here on the hourly. So I mean, that super short-term trend is changing, but we knew that. We were looking at this exact chart yesterday, and I was telling you that, you know, the fact that this is closing up is a sign that, you know, kind of super short-term, we could be ready for a bit of a pullback. But again, I mean, that's what we expected, and it's totally fine. I'm very, very happy with it. So that's what I'm seeing here for Bitcoin. There's a lot more in terms of downside and upside, but I'm not going to cover that just yet. I want to take your attention over to this, because this is a hilarious little meme here. If Bitcoin doesn't hit $100,000 next year, we're all going to be just like Donald Trump working in McDonald's. So I think that's absolutely hilarious. Hopefully we can get those jobs at McDonald's. The economy is going to be strong enough for people to eat a $20 Big Mac. I've heard Big Macs going for $20 in California. I haven't verified that information, but $20 for a Big Mac. I mean, in Switzerland, a Big Mac is going to be a lot, like 10 Swiss franc. Like, it's going to be fucking ridiculous. It won't make sense. By the way, 10 Swiss franc is like $12, if I'm not mistaken. It's a lot of money for one burger, but yeah, there we go. Bitcoin, if it doesn't hit 100K, we're going to be in an interesting place, ladies and gents. But this chart I thought was really interesting. Bitcoin entering disbelief kind of overshadowed this kind of sentiment chart overshadowing the current chart that we're in. You know, I actually believe that we are in disbelief. It's kind of been my main argument for the last few months, you know, that there are a lot of people who are seeing this move up in the market, but they don't believe in it at all, and they're not interested in entertaining it at all. But to me, this is more, you know, those people are more upset that the market has been bad to them, you know, than they are cognizant, than they are aware of the factors present in this market right now. Okay, so to repeat that, the people, I think, the people who don't believe this rally is legitimate, I think those people are just upset that the market has been really boring. They're not actually aware of the facts, which I think are overwhelmingly positive and bullish from a fundamental perspective and from a technical perspective. And the reason that I thought this was interesting as a result is because it really kind of plots what this thing could look like, if indeed we're not at euphoria yet, if we're not at thrill yet, if we're not at belief yet. Where could we be? In fact, I think this disbelief should actually be a little bit higher up. I think it should be where we are now. In fact, I think this whole fucking thing has been disbelief, and it's just different groups of people feeling different levels of disbelief at different times. That's really all I think this is. And I don't know. You might disagree with me. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. I genuinely want to know. And over here, Anthony Pompliano, absolute legend. The stock market goes up regardless of who the president is. Real estate goes up regardless. Bitcoin goes up regardless. Don't let politics fool you. The only thing that matters is the dollar devaluing, and both parties do it. I mean, I wish I could. I mean, what do we do with this? We just got to make this full screen real quick because this is such an important tweet. I can't stress this enough, ladies and gents. I mean, we've seen this a million times. We've seen this throughout every single presidential cycle. The markets keep going up. We've known this. I made a dedicated video just on the election. Those of you that are subscribed are going to know about it. And I was saying very clearly that if Kamala gets elected, I think Bitcoin goes up because inflation's going to be quite crazy. If Trump gets elected, I think Bitcoin's going to go up because we're going to have better policy. But what I forgot to say actually is that inflation is still going to go up because, just like Anthony said here, both parties, regardless of how much you're a bum chum for Trump as well, both parties, you don't know what a bum chum is, do you? Because you're American. Go Google it. Both parties will do the same thing in terms of devaluing the dollar, regardless of how much Trump wants to defend it, and more importantly, just causing more inflation. Even with Trump's promises of, bringing energy back into the country, producing it domestically and stuff like that, you can't be, the dollar is designed to be inflationary. You can't get around that. It doesn't matter how good your policies are. So it's either going to happen quickly or it's going to happen slowly. But in both cases, it's going to happen. And I think this is so important as we lead up to the election day, which is about 15 days away now. It's exactly 15 days away now, if I'm not mistaken. So quite crazy times here. Let's bring it back to, actually, before we come back to the Bitcoin chart, one last tweet here. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF is now the third biggest ETF for 2024 inflows. That's out of all ETFs. And it's the fastest growing ETF ever. We've seen a ton of data in this direction already, and we're continuing to see more. I just don't see it. We're talking about a brand new ETF and a brand new market that didn't exist 10 to 15 years ago. And now, with this ETF, it's the fastest growing one. It's got a shitload of money moving into it on a regular basis. And I'm supposed to somehow believe that this is a fake rally, where Bitcoin is not going to get, I don't, it's obviously going to get above 100K with these factors in mind, in my opinion, in my view, because of all of the other things that are in place now. Now we have big money, smart money, slow money parked in this market. So naturally, we can let the pumping begin. And this doesn't mean it has to be a nice journey, by the way. It can still mean that we get a big crash or a few big crashes before it happens. But the point is that the end result will be up. It will be mega up from what I can see here. Still fully believe it. I find it hard to entertain other theories. I mean, I would love to. I want to understand the other perspectives, and I try very, very hard. I try much harder than most people ever try to understand different perspectives, especially in trading, because it's my job. It's what I do. But I don't think that there's real sense or good reasoning behind the ideas that suggest Bitcoin's going to trend down. I just think that the probabilities are not stacked in that direction. And I think that the market is reflecting that, because the market is moving up and it is setting higher highs and it is setting higher lows. So we really have to see how we interact with this particular support level here. And if we do kind of really lose it, or if we get a bounce, and I think that if we do get a bounce, then that's it. You're off to, 71, 72K. There's no real resistance left before we get there. So I think that that's going to be pretty easy for Bitcoin to actually get up that high. And, I think that, if we're able to get that support, then we've also now, punched in a new kind of higher low. It's very micro. It's not a super kind of macro higher low. A more macro, would have been potentially a little bit lower, maybe a little bit later on, not so soon. But we're also punching in a new low. And I think most importantly, beyond all of that, we're just validating all of this. We're just validating that we're not coming back down. You see, I think what most people really don't understand, but the reason that you're here and I'm here is to really break down what the market is telling you, okay? And in situations like this, when you manage to get a little bit of headroom above your resistance level, not only with time, but also with price, in these kind of situations, you come back down to support. This is basically the bears having a super serious, real chance to drive this market lower. The bears have a chance to send us plummeting down through resistance. I'm sorry, down through support, crashing down to find our next floor at our next support level, which would be at about 63k. Or 64. There's so many levels in between. But it would mean that we have to come down to find our next support. And it's also a test for the bulls to step in and say, hang on a minute, I don't think I'm going to get this price level again. I don't think I'm going to get this price level again. I'm going to buy it now because I want to get in on this ship, right? So this is a chance for the bulls to demonstrate that they're actually quite bullish here and they don't really think the price is going to keep dropping. And for the bears to say, I don't think the price is going to keep going up. The bears have a chance to say, I don't think the price is going to keep going up. I don't want to sell here, or I do want to sell here because I think this is the best exit I'm going to get. If that's how the bears feel, you're going to drop below support. But if the bears don't feel that way, then what's going to happen is what we've seen so far. It's going to continue. We're going to see that these support levels get defended. Maybe you slip down a little bit more, but the support level still gets defended. And then that's going to really tell us, okay, we're done messing around. We're done trying to sell this thing. The only thing left is residual demand, and the price has to shoot up. This is what happens at every pullback, right? We see this happen when we start falling below support levels. And by the way, this little wick here is the same reason that I drew a blue box at the beginning of the video. It's to account for stuff like this. It's very possible. It happens all of the time. Look at this. It happens all the time. There's so many instances of this happening. Take a look at this. You just kind of overshoot your support level a little bit, but I mean, if you know how to trade this, that's where you make a lot of money, right? So that's where I thought that was really interesting. Bitcoin's not the only trade I want to take. There's also another one on Solana, which I'm looking at, and Solana's just looking so strong. I mean, take a look at this chart for Solana. Just look at this price level here, by the way. I mean, this price level has developed quite well now. We've really been finding some resistance here. And I think that if Solana can come back down, that's going to be a really interesting trade setup, right? Again, it's not necessarily something I would do, and we're still quite far away from even opening that trade, right? From those orders even hitting, right? So I don't want to start acting like this is definitely going to be happening, but there is a trade setup here that I've already planned. I'm just trying to pull up my notes to find the exact details of that trade. Just to make sure I'm talking about the right price levels. And yeah, I am. Yeah, this is exactly it. And I think, just a very, very interesting, resistance level that could be flipping into support now. And Solana is obviously one of the leading coins, which is not Bitcoin. It's one of the leading altcoins. So I think that it's interesting for that reason as well. So some really, really interesting stuff. Like I said, I'm going to be trading this stuff on the links down below. They're all great platforms. There's other great platforms as well, but I think these are among the best. And again, I think another big benefit that you guys can also get, right, and this is really important, is that, if it does happen from time to time, it's very rare, but it does happen. If you ever have an issue with your exchanges, right, the exchanges that I'm talking about, you can come to me, and I've got direct contact with people high up in these companies, and I will make sure that your issues are resolved quickly. I'm talking about, like, if your money is trapped on the exchange, or whatever. If there's like some bullshit that happens with your trade where it's not going to happen, but like something goes wrong with your trade, whatever it is, you come to me, and I've got access to the top. We'll get your shit resolved. That alone is worth it, because we've been able to help a lot of people already. And if you like the idea of kind of having that added protection, especially if you're working with some serious money, then I think this stuff is going to be really appealing to you, even if it means making a new account. Again, as usual, just be very mindful of your laws though in your country. because that is going to very, very important. It's going to be very important to follow your laws. But if we do move back to the market here and specifically focus back on Bitcoin, we've spoken a lot about the upside. Now, in terms of downside, it's like I said, in validation, I would say kind of mid 65K range. I think that support is going to be a little bit spongy all the way down there. Below that, yeah, you got 63 and 61. Like I said, there's still phenomenal levels. I'd still be bullish if Bitcoin fell down there. Bitcoin's dominance has continued to fall down. It's still much higher than it was, just a month ago, and many months before that. It's still significantly higher than it was earlier this year. It's not even close. The altcoins are still decimated. It's pulling back by only a fraction of a percentage point. So really very much the same thing going on here, I think, for Bitcoin's dominance. We're seeing this reflected with Ethereum against Bitcoin. Really, the result of this is that Bitcoin dumped harder than the rest of the altcoins today. That's really all it means. So unfortunately for the altcoin guys, not much to read in over here. It's just a market that's a little bit exhausted, but I think the trend is still the trend, and I think it's going to be hard for that to stop trending. Speaking of trending, S&P 500 continuing to consolidate at an all-time high while it's in a very nice long-term uptrend. Obviously, this uptrend is not sustainable. It's going to have to get a nice big pullback at some point, and it hasn't had one now for years, which is concerning. I was really hoping that this was going to be the pullback for the S&P 500 that was significant, that did bring it down to previous all-time highs. It would have meant Bitcoin was in the 40K range as well, but it just would have been so might have meant lower than 40K for Bitcoin, but it would have been so healthy for the S&P 500. We didn't get it. It's trending up. Short term, obviously, I think it's going to keep trending up, but long term, this chart is going to find itself in trouble, and I'm going to try and kind of make sure that I'm ahead of the curve when that does happen. By the way, take a look at gold. Again, all-time highs. No one's even talking about this. We were talking about gold when it was consolidating below $2,000, and I was telling you guys that it's going to be the most obvious buy ever. I really am very happy that you guys have been listening to me on things like this and have been paying attention to precious metals like gold as well. This is not just a Bitcoin channel. This is a I want to make money channel, and you want to make money channel. And if we can make money off other assets, then why the hell not? And obviously, everybody with some serious cash to play with is interested in gold. And I think that that's what makes gold very interesting here, because it's already been moving up quite a lot. We've gone from $2,000 up to $2,700 now, which is the 35% pump that I was prophesizing. I was saying we're going to get a 35% pump for a very, very long time from $2,000. That has now happened, and that's my first key target. So we've now hit that. It's taken 280 days, which is about, 8 months. So it did take a little bit of time, but it is what it is. It's fine. It's more like 9 months, isn't it? I don't know. But that's fine by me. I'm not upset by that. I did expect gold to move slowly, but I think that this is useful. I think it's nice. Obviously, I hold a little bit of gold. Many of you guys hold gold. I know many of you are kind of happy with the gold analysis I've been giving you, and I think gold is going to keep going up. I'm not surprised by this whatsoever. And by the way, I revised my target. I did originally say 35%, but then I said 50%, which means $3,000, and now I'm saying $3,500. And the reason I've moved my goalposts is because gold took longer than I expected to move to break out, and so naturally, the longer you consolidate for, the harder you're going to pop. And inflation is just fucking crazy. People are trying to make you believe that inflation is now out under control, but I think what the general public does not understand is that inflation under control just means inflation is back to the same level of shit than it was before. So certainly not in control at all, in my opinion. Far from it. It's just not as shit as it was a year ago or whatever, and that to me, it doesn't actually say much. That's not really going to gain points in my book. So that's how I feel about that. But yeah, pretty good stuff here for gold. Over to the dollar. The dollar has moved up beautifully today. Look at this nice big candle here. This is going to be the explanation for Bitcoin, bottom line, that I think for why Bitcoin has ended up dipping. And I think that now that the dollar is approaching this resistance zone, this is where a nice big reversal could be happening for the dollar. Might not. We'll have to see. I'm not going to hold my breath for it. And it takes time as well. The dollar moves slowly, right? It can even overshoot it and then stay overshooting it for a week. And it's the dollar. You don't analyze it on short time frames. But regardless of any of that or all of that, this is still a resistance zone. And so, maybe we expect something here. And if it does kind of produce a bigger reversal at this point, then I really think Bitcoin's going to fly. And I really think we're going to be quite substantially above the all-time high at some point this week if the dollar does reverse, soon. So we're going to have to see how that goes. But really good stuff there, ladies and gents. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, you know what to do. Smash up those likes, subscribe, tick the bell. Check out these offers if you're allowed to in your country. And I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy. Cheers.